Do you know what the most common use of a firearm is in the United States? And I'm specifically talking about outside of going to the range, just keeping it around for the sake of self-protection, or just fiddling with guns in a general sense. No, specifically I mean, what is the most common active use of a firearm in the United States? Now, you might think it's to commit violent crime, their criminals use firearms, robbery, homicide. It does contribute somewhat. But actually, if you look at the stats, the most common use of a firearm, outside of recreational usage, of course, is, how should we put this, the implementation of shaking off this mortal coil, so to speak. The removal of the self, if you will. And this phenomenon almost entirely occurs within the context of men. There might be a few women who do this, but by and large, it's almost entirely men who do this. And it is the most common violent usage of a firearm in the United States. Now, there's a common term for these types of passings. They're referred to as deaths of despair. And that's sort of the topic of this video. How did we get here in the first place? Because the rates are going up. And on top of that, you have other phenomena, such as fentanyl addiction, or more broadly, drug addiction. You have homelessness. You have all these issues that affect everyone to some degree, but primarily adult men. And it really begs the question. Now, we've talked about this a lot in the past, or a lot over the previous decade plus, but this is a bit personal to me in the sense that I have a very close friend who is kind of how I would describe the all-American guy, right? Very, very American, Midwestern, that sort of thing. And I've seen him transform over the years from somebody who was upbeat, very inspired, ambitious, and just friendly, very powerful moral compass, and just in general a very good person, a very good human being. I've seen him over the years transform from that individual into somebody that, through no fault of his own, is at times very difficult to recognize as relates to his former self. And even though he's holding on, I often think that he's holding on to but a mere thread. And the reason for this is, time and again, I think in many ways he's symbolic, or maybe the embodiment of this phenomenon we can observe, the phenomenon of apathy towards men. Time and again, he's had the rug pulled out from under him, again and again and again. And each time, it takes a little piece of him away. And the current incarnation that I'm familiar with is somebody who's fundamentally different from the incarnation that I got to know years ago. Now, this is not a criticism, far from it. It's basically a concern. He's a very close friend of mine, one of my closest, and it's hard to simply ignore what's happened. He got to know the nature of men and women because he was deceived by his partner, his fiancée/girlfriend, who at the time was a single mother, who knowingly did not tell him that she had an ex-partner and had absconded with a child, which forced this friend of mine, again, very, very upstanding individual, to testify against his girlfriend partner for the sake of the father who had been deprived of the child. And then just increased entanglements with, how should we put this, unsavory individuals in society who tend to be ne'er-do-wells, commit crime, tend to not be very productive, and just the general observation of the dilapidation of his environment. Places that used to look nice, places that used to have meaning, these sorts of things. There are many other things, but I don't want to get too personal here. Needless to say, it is, again, part and parcel of a state of apathy that has just hit the United States like a truck. Men parting ways from existence because existence is just fundamentally not appealing to them, or rather, because they don't see themselves as having anything to live for. Now, there are many contributing factors here, as in contributing factors that led us down the path. You have increased industrialization, mechanization, automation. You have the hollowing out of things like the Rust Belt and the Midwest in general, places that used to be very robust in terms of the work and industry there, and right now it's just a shell of its former self. But more than anything else, far more than anything else, I think at the root of this is human psychology and, unfortunately, political/cultural/human ideology. You see, it never needed to come to this. It never needed to come to the fact that men en masse are deciding to shuffle off this moral coil vis-a-vis firearms. Men en masse are losing themselves in narcotics and drink. You can have automation. You can have loss of jobs. These are absolutely contributing factors. But ultimately, it's the apathy of the world, the apathy of society shown towards men that leaves them in the bind, leaves them in the situation that they're in. Because what do you do if you're a concerned person, if you actually care, in a situation where opportunities that used to be present are no longer present, where environments that used to be nice to have grown up in, that looked nice, that served a purpose, when they are dilapidated and falling apart? What do you do in these situations? Well, you can do what we're doing now, broadly speaking, which is ignore it, just allow everything to fall to pieces and just rot and decay away into nothingness. You can do that. In fact, that seems to be the go-to. Or you can intervene when you see that there are problems. Now, when it comes to many other demographics in the United States specifically, especially women, above all women, anytime there's a little hint, the tiniest hint, a whiff of a woman falling behind, of her struggling, or women more broadly struggling, then there needs to be a big discussion about it, and there needs to be money spent and funneled into taking care of the problem. Whether it's taken care of or not is immaterial, but there needs to be something done, right? There needs to be action taken. But when it comes to men, nothing but cricket chirps and silence. It's something we're all familiar with. But on top of that, you have these bizarre issues like whose gender is what gender, the 5 gazillion genders that exist right now. Issues that are at best quintenary issues, maybe sestenary, maybe septenary. They're not important at all. And we've discovered, of course, over the last couple of months, that there had been tons of federal money, millions of dollars, being given to bizarre projects that serve absolutely no use other than to further delve into the ideology that has so captivated a tiny, tiny fraction of the population. Like further elucidating the mysteries of the trans woman or something like that. Now, I want you to think about this. Think about all those millions of dollars that could have been put into, I don't know, community projects, rebuilding parks, rebuilding buildings. My friend is a horticulturist, actually, so he could have a lot to do with rebuilding parks, reforesting areas, making things nice again. How about funding workshops where men learn useful skills such as carpentry and similar things, where they can also bond and get to know other men and just feel like they're welcome and they're not completely alienated from their environment and from the places where they live? Now, these days, the answer to everything is go see a therapist. That's not how men operate. Men would benefit a lot more if these wasted monetary funds that have been going into absurd ideological projects were funneled into general community projects that men can profit from directly. But the problem, of course, is that men, specifically straight white men, don't have that option because they're seen as agentic in a way that other groups are not. And so we end up in a situation where money that was absolutely available to be used to intervene, to create an environment, a cascading effect that would prevent the shuffling off of this mortal coil, would prevent the state of despair that has so taken my friend and basically taken every sense of desire from him for the most part. All of this could have been prevented if there'd simply been signals from outside that someone or some people actually give a damn. It's that simple. Now, would it fix every problem? Would it fix the hollowing out of industry, lack of jobs, this sort of thing? Probably not. But it would ameliorate a lot of the impact and consequences of that sort of thing. And it would keep men going to give them a sense of hope, for lack of a better word, that there might be something down the line, that there's a proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. Apathy is crushing men, gentlemen. That's the problem here. And it leads to a further problem. The phenomenon of being chronically online and delving into all the pills and this and that. When you don't have anything going for you in life, you become obsessed with things that are, well, real and part of life, but then take on new dimensions because you're spending 24/7 online. I see it with countless guys who effectively in life are just twiddling their thumbs. They're going nowhere. There's a sense of despair there. And so they rather would just delve into the deepest mysteries of online discourse and get bogged down into all sorts of silly things, be it extreme LARPing, be it extreme ideology. The online world becomes the only world for them. Now, that doesn't apply to every man, especially older men, millennials, but it certainly is a very, very potent factor in disenfranchisement and the apathy shown towards Zoomer men. And again, the solutions are here. The solutions are simple. You could have taken all that money, poured into these wasteful projects for the sake of ideologues, exploring their gender mania or other weird progressive goals and ideas, and put it into practical projects that would help men to pick themselves up. Now, I think it's very unlikely it's ever going to happen, but this is the evidence we have at the end of the day that nobody gives a damn about men. It's pure apathy. It's not even misandry per se. It's tendency-wise not really an active hatred. It's more like, who are these people and why should we give a damn about them? That's why, to this day, I simply cannot take the claims of feminism seriously. Feminism is about all people. Obviously not. Feminism is about gimme the goods. Feminism has always been about women wanting the goods. Gimme, 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 gimme my stuff. It's never been about equality, gender equality. It's never been about helping both sexes. It's always been about being partial towards women to the exclusion of everything else. And I've said this so many times on this channel, and it bears repeating. Unfortunately, even though men and women are very different from each other, at the end of the day, in a world with limited resources, we as a society have to think and consider where those resources are delegated to, where those resources are given, to whom they're given, and in a world of two genders, yes, just two sexes, two genders, however you want to frame it, one gender is going to get more than the other. Probably at the end of the day is people don't try to balance it out. They don't think, okay, well, women are getting this, maybe we should give something to men. It never happens. And people, women especially, but people more broadly ask themselves why some men feel the way they do about the world, about women. They're bitter, they're this and that. Well, think about it. When women are given a leg up in almost every conceivable way, and men are given nothing, and the only argument is, well, you guys got the goodies, you guys were part of the patriarchy for so long, and now it's your turn to suffer. The way that's framed is totally false. What do you think is going to happen? I think a lot of men are going to be shuffling off this mortal coil. But in any event, as always, thank you for tuning in. Many special thanks to my very generous patrons on Patreon, my donors on PayPal. You guys are the best. Without you, this channel absolutely could not exist, so thank you so much. If you can hit the bell icon to be informed of my videos, much appreciated. And engage in the usual YouTube jazz of liking the video, commenting, subbing if you're not yet a sub, sharing the video with some people would be appreciated. And if I'm still alive, I'll check you out next time. Until then, may the gods truly watch over you. Bye-bye for now.
If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.